Y'all, the Georgia minimum wage isn't even like the federal one. The minimum wage in Georgia is $5. $5.15 is the minimum wage in Georgia.
Georgia families were promised that MAGA leadership would make life easier and more affordable. But now, rent is climbing, power bills are exploding, gas prices are painful, and even childcare costs more than college tuition. The slogan said working people would win, but for many Georgians, the bills are saying something very different.
Here's the thing. The economy wasn't actually bad under Biden. He passed more positive, meaningful economic legislation than you could even dream of if you're a Trump supporter. But Trump, during all 4 years of Biden's presidency, yelled into the void every day how horrible the economy was. And all these horrible made-up lies about things that Biden was doing, like not going to North Carolina after the hurricanes. You all just fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Well, now you're finding out what a bad economy is. So welcome to reality.
Stunning new details tonight on Georgia's housing crisis. A GSU study says 19,000 homes, not apartments, homes in the metro are owned by 3 companies. That's nearly 1 in every 9 houses up for rent, and some entire suburban neighborhoods where corporations own it all. Channel 2's Michael Doudna is live in Paulding County. And Michael, this is important because it drives up prices for everyone.
Yeah, when you're talking about tens of thousands of homes involved here, well, it can make an impact, meaning that homes that you see like this one that would originally have been a starter home about a decade or so ago are now for lease. Signs in front yards showing not a home for sale, but for rent.
Atlanta has more of these types of properties than the next couple of metro areas combined.
These properties are single-family homes owned by corporations, not people. And Atlanta is the #1 location for these houses in the entire country, according to GSU professor Taylor Shelton.
Just a decade or so ago, none of these companies even existed.
But a recent study found that just 3 companies, known to customers as Progress Residential, Invitation Homes, and Main Street Renewal, own more than 19,000 homes in the metro area.
And to these AI data centers, come to the front of the class, please, because nobody's explaining how this actually hits regular people or how your bills are rising to cover data centers' energy costs. Electricity demand is exploding right now, and a big driver is these massive AI data centers. These aren't normal data centers, by the way. They pull an enormous amount of power all at once in one place. In Georgia, utilities are using that demand as a reason to keep old coal and gas plants alive and to build even more fossil fuel infrastructure instead of investing in clean energy that's cheaper and faster to build. Here's why that matters to you. Utility companies in Georgia are allowed to pass these costs straight to the customers. And at the end of the day, your costs are going up as the environment is harmed. The plants, the pipelines, the grid updates, all of it ends up on your electric bill. Analysts are already warning families could be paying hundreds more per year on electricity within the next decade. Groups like the National Resources Defense Council have been clear about this. Clean energy and energy efficiency aren't just better for the environment. They're how you keep your power affordable, reduce pollution, and avoid locking families into decades of higher bills. Georgia just has to decide whether it meets that demand with clean energy that protects consumers or fossil fuels that keep getting more expensive.
And I investigated over the last 6 months these out-of-state companies who come in and they buy up homes in bulk in Georgia, driving up the cost of housing. That's why I called on the Senate to pass this bill to crack down on these big out-of-state companies that are buying up homes in Georgia and jacking up prices, and the Senate did pass the bill.
I remember what it's like to be homeless. In 2006, when I first came to Georgia, I was living right here at the Armada Inn in Norcross. At first, I thought it was fun. We had a pool, we had amenities, we had house cleaning. But what I didn't know was that I was actually homeless at the time. But unfortunately, for many Georgians, ending up in a place like this is becoming more of a reality each and every day. With the cost of living going up, rent going up, electric bills going up, and housing prices going up, it's becoming more and more impossible for Georgians to find their American dream.
And yet, Georgia's minimum wage on our books continues to be $5.15 an hour. That has not changed since 1997. Truly, it's shameful. It's shameful. So now what we're seeing is that people can't even get by, let alone being able to get ahead. And it's become a never-ending struggle. Everything, including buying a home, has become increasingly impossible. And I want to be clear, that competition to compete to be able to buy a home is impossible because of corporations like BlackRock that are buying up homes and artificially inflating prices. They do this by outbidding us, then selling the property to shell corporations, surging up the cost. It's also causing a crisis by raising our taxes, which then forces people out of their homes, and you start to see more and more displacement. Those on fixed incomes in particular are now being forced out and can't age with dignity. In short, what they keep telling us is the American dream, they've turned into a nightmare.
These are the people that put you where you are today. You want to talk about unity? Unify us. You have divided us. And it might not be your intention, and I'm sure it's not, but there is a transparency issue, and I think every one of you know it. It's unspoken, but you know what it is.
Our Constitution guards life, liberty, and property, but it's taking a beating right now. I know some of your grandkids, commissioners and fellow Cowadians, what legacy are we leaving them? We're trading rivers for tech that's junk before it's plugged in. What's your grandkids' inheritance? Taxed out towns, dry rivers, a dead grid? We won't see the wreckage until it's too late.
It's not just land that they gobble up. It's power and water as well. People's electric bills go up. Water can become polluted and scarce. They destroy quality of life. So why? Why in the name of all that's holy would anybody ever invite a data center into their community?
Power suppliers are quietly passing along these data center costs down to the residents, and we don't accept this. Residents in Memphis, as an example, have had their rates increase in 2024, 2025, and just received notices of more increases next year. Now these residents have no recourse, no way out. Memphis residents didn't know, but we do know. Residents being billed more to cover the cost of trillion-dollar tax-exempt companies. We don't accept this.
You look at it across the country, the answer is simple. It's cheap for the developer, but it's costing us, and it's going to cost you. You're creating a legacy for yourselves now. I don't care if you're on this side of the room or that side of the room. The fact remains is that your decision carries weight for decades. It's going to rob this community. It's going to scar this community. And it's going to leave your family's names in the mud, unfortunately. And I don't want to see that happen.
What makes Georgia's cost of living crisis so frustrating is how basic the struggle has become. People are not asking for luxury. They are asking why electricity costs so much, why rent keeps rising, why childcare is nearly impossible to afford, and why a full tank of gas feels like a financial event. The Georgia power issue is especially revealing. Families are unplugging appliances, washing clothes in cold water, turning off lights, and still getting bills that feel impossible. That is not normal budgeting. That is people trying to survive a system that keeps charging more while offering them no real choice. And this is where MAGA economics starts to look very hollow. Politicians love to talk about growth, business, and development, but growth means nothing if ordinary people are paying for it through higher bills. If big tech, data centers, and monopoly utilities benefit while families choose between groceries and electricity, then that is not progress. That is corporate comfort being funded by public pain. Georgia voters deserve leaders who protect ratepayers, renters, parents, and workers, not leaders who act like record profits are more important than real people.
This is where I sleep and live in the living room.
Cindy Ivey lives down to the penny.
I count change every month.
Her Social Security and disability checks are just enough to keep her in this Calhoun apartment, where she's lived the past 2 years. The cheapest option she could find after being priced out of her last rental.
When I first moved in, it was $600 a month. That was in July. July of the next year, they went up to $750. Then July of the next year, they went up to $900. And that's just about my whole check. So I had to find a cheaper place to live.
That's a 50% increase. Perfectly legal under Georgia law, but impossible on her fixed income.
What's the ultimate worst case scenario?
Handing out tents. Because we'll be up under the bridge with the rest of them.
I live in the most corrupt state in the United States.
No, you don't. You absolutely do not. We have a big problem in Georgia with Georgia Power ripping off its customers. Last week, Governor Brian Kemp announced a 3-year rate freeze for Georgia Power customers, as though that's a good thing. This so-called rate freeze is a catastrophe for Georgia Power customers. It freezes rates for 3 years, but does not freeze spending. And let's be real, does anyone think Georgia Power is a benevolent corporation that offered a rate freeze because of the goodness of their heart? This is about hiding profits, hiding spending, And also, it's a gift to incumbent commissioners that they want to keep in office so they can keep the gravy train running. But Georgia Power can't get away with ripping us off without the collusion of this man, PSC Commission Chair Jason Shaw.
But I can tell you this.
I can tell you this, everything he's about to tell you is a lie.
All of our neighboring states are going through massive rate increases.
All of our states that are around us are not going through massive rate increases. That's just not true. In fact, who went through massive rate increases for the last 2 years was Georgia Power at his hand with his votes.
Hey, we're going to have, as always, an open and transparent process.
We're going to have an open and transparent process. This is the opposite of that, sir. This rate freeze prohibits transparency for 3 freaking years.
Put us in a position like we've never seen before with regards to the policies that have been enacted that have put us in this growth position.
What growth position is that, Chairman Shaw, that you're carefully not mentioning? Oh, look, it's data center growth that nobody wants. It tears up our landscape, it steals our water, and it uses enormous amounts of energy, and data centers provide almost 0 jobs.
And we're able to take advantage of that. And at the Public Service Commission, we're just proud to play a role in that.
What, you're not sure if you can say data centers? Is that why you keep saying that? We're just proud to take a role in that.
And with regards to economic development, we would never have this kind of reputation and this designation.
Never be able to have this reputation, this designation, without what? Reliable energy? The grid is on 99% of the time in the entire United States. Are you going to pretend like Georgia's different?
Without reliable utilities and competitive rates.
This is almost laughable. Shaw says we have competitive rates. No, we don't, unless you're an industrial customer and pay rates that are 60% below the national average.
Every day with our hardworking staff, we've got Tom Bond and Tom Kraus here.
We love our hardworking staff, Tom Bond and Tom Kraus, 2 worst staff in the agency. First of all, they're paid. This is their job, so they don't get a special call out and a special thank you for being hardworking. We all work hard, sir, and our state taxes are paying for Tom Bond and Tom Kraus to screw us over, especially Tom Bond, who loves to make agreements with Georgia Power in backroom secret deals that are outside of public transparency.
Agreement. This is a pending decision, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details on it.
Oh, you're not going to go into a lot of details on it? Why? Because of this rule that prohibits you from stating an opinion on matters before the commission? Okay, shh. We won't say anything about your position on this.
So to freeze base rates for 3 years is a very big deal for our state, and it's good for Georgians.
Oh no, you spilled the beans. You said your position on it right after saying that you couldn't say your position on it.
And it's good for Georgians.
Look, I'm just going to cut to the chase. Commissioner Shaw is not allowed, nor any commissioner is allowed, to state their position on proceedings before the commission, before any hearings have been heard. And he did that, as did 2 others. So I have filed a demand letter asking that he recuse himself from future votes and discussions about this rate freeze. You can read more about why this rate freeze is a Trojan horse and see a copy of the demand letter itself at my website, georgiansforaffordableenergy.org. Click on Education, and below the Education tab is a tab that says The Truth About Rate Freeze. To sign up for my newsletter and stay abreast of this as it goes forward, scroll to the bottom of the landing page. Look, I used to think I knew what bad people looked like, but I don't. His view that business is king and the only thing that matters is getting more business to the state while completely ignoring the pain of the ratepayer and Georgia Power's high disconnect rate and Georgia Power's huge profits is just disgusting. And that makes him a bad person.
The housing crisis in Georgia shows another side of this problem. Atlanta and surrounding areas are becoming harder and harder for regular people to afford. Rent is rising, rooms are being rented for outrageous prices, and corporate landlords are buying up homes that used to be starter homes for families. That should make people angry. Not hateful, but honestly angry. Because when corporations buy thousands of homes, outbid regular families, and turn neighborhoods into rental markets, they are not just changing prices. They are changing the future of entire communities. This is the so-called American dream being turned into a subscription plan. People are no longer just competing with other families for a home. They are competing with massive companies, investors, and out-of-state corporate landlords who can pay cash, raise rents, and squeeze communities for profit. MAGA politicians love to talk about protecting families, but families need housing. Families need stability. Families need a chance to own something, build equity, and age with dignity. If leadership allows corporations to turn homes into profit machines while working people are priced out, then they are not protecting the American dream. They are selling it.
People are charging $1,000 a month to rent rooms in their home. $1,000 a month to rent a room. Because what you mean, you charge people $1,000. You got 3 rooms in your house, you're charging them $1,000 for somebody to come live there. This shit is sad.
What if I told you that childcare costs more than most mortgages? In fact, childcare costs more than in-state college tuition. It's cheaper to send your kids to Georgia State University than it would be to send them to daycare. That leaves many parents having to choose between daycare and putting food on the table.
This month, Atlanta ranked as the second most expensive city in the U.S. to rent. You don't want to hear it, neither do I. That's according to a new report from the online rental platform Zumper. Now, the median price of 1-bedroom units in our city is $1,630. That's a lot higher than the average for Georgia, which is around $1,300. For the metro area, Alpharetta is ranked as the most expensive city with 1 bedrooms coming in at $1,650. The city of Atlanta placed second, and then Lawrenceville came in third. Rome was listed as the most affordable place to live with 1 bedrooms priced under $900 for rent. LaGrange ranked as the second least expensive, and then Forest Park came in third.
Okay, so boom. Georgia Power done raised the rate 6 times since 2023. 6. That's an extra $43 a month for the same lights, same fridge, same everything. Meanwhile, their execs are out here collecting bonuses like Thanos stones. And the people who approved all that, the Georgia Public Service Commission, they're supposed to be protecting us. But somehow, they've been guarding Georgia Power's profit margins like they on payroll. You know what's really wild? My electric bill got me doing math I didn't even do in college. Like, why am I paying for Google service when I could barely charge my iPhone? These data centers, yeah, big tech's playground or whatever, they guzzling up Georgia's power, tripling energy demand by 2028. And guess who's footing the bill? You, me, auntie, and the single mom down the block. 1 in 4 families in Atlanta are energy burdened, meaning they're choosing between groceries or electricity. People are out here rationing AC like it's gold, while Georgia Power out here talking about record profits.
Okay, Atlanta, no, serious question. What are we doing about these rent prices? Now, I just got my rent renewal email, and my rent is only going up like $47 this year. But my rent is already expensive as hell. So if they would have went up any more than $47, it would have been an issue. And I know we like to laugh and kiki here or whatever. But no, seriously, what do we do about these rent prices? Like what are we doing? Also, I was just scrolling and I seen this girl talk about her Georgia Power bill was $300 last month. And my Georgia Power bill was a little more expensive than it normally is. And I thought I was just tripping because it's hot and I've been using my AC and I have a lot of like vertical space. But it seems like we're all in the same boat. Rent is expensive. Utilities is going up. Georgia Power lost their mind.
The data center issue in Georgia is where the warning gets even louder. Leaders keep presenting these projects as economic development, but residents are asking the right question. Development for who? Data centers use enormous amounts of power and water. They can push utilities to build more infrastructure, keep old fossil fuel plants running, and pass those costs down to customers. And when regular families are already struggling with electric bills, asking them to pay more so trillion-dollar companies can expand is not innovation. It is corporate welfare with a tech logo. That is the contradiction MAGA never wants to explain. They say they are against elites, but somehow the elites keep getting protected. They say they are for working people, but working people keep getting the bill. They say they believe in accountability, but when utility companies and public commissions make decisions behind closed doors, ordinary residents are left fighting just to be heard. Georgia does not need development that scars communities, drains resources, raises bills, and creates only a handful of benefits for locals. Georgia needs leadership that asks who pays, who profits, and who gets left behind. Because if the answer is that corporations profit while families pay, then Georgians are not being served. They are being used.
I'm so freaking frustrated right now because I just got off the phone with Georgia Power. I don't understand why my bill is $350. Wash every other day. We only wash with cold water. We unplug everything except the refrigerator. Not only that, but we also turn off our AC during the day. Where? We are a one-income family. We are broke as hell, and we're trying to save up money so we can get out of debt. I'm literally posting on this app to make money to get out of debt. Georgia Power doesn't make it any easy. It feels to me like they're charging me for the fact of me trying to save money. What the hell? And let's not even forget to mention, my stove is gas, my heater is gas. So you're not even using everything full power at my house for electricity. So why is it $350? They want to charge you for the stupidest things ever. You live in Georgia and you have Georgia Power. I am so sorry, because not only is it expensive, but their customer service is useless. Useless. The sad part about this is that they're still going to get their $350 and there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing.
So we are stopping to get gas. So my vehicle takes diesel, and there's the price, $4.98.9. Now it was a little more about a week ago. I think it was over $5. So $4.98. This is a little painful. 5 gallons. We're already at $28. So, Chad, how much will this end up being?
About $70.
Dang, did we have an empty tank?
Oh, it wasn't empty. It wasn't quite empty.
Okay. I'll show you what it is.
A little quarter of it.
Okay. All right, that's the final total, 83.51, 16 gallons, little over 16 gallons. That's it. Man, that boots.
So y'all, I've been seeing all the Georgia Power people talking about their light bill being high, right? How about y'all come down here in Spalding County in the city of Griffin, and y'all see our light bill be $700, $800, $900, and it was before inflation, before shit got high. Just imagine how much our light bills is now, y'all. They've been doing this shit for years. Like, these people been busting our heads for years. And then guess what? They don't even give us an option. We can't choose Georgia Power, EMC. We got to get City of Griffin. We can't go nowhere else. And they're going to give us the highest amount, and then you only got 1 week to pay that shit. 7 days, they cut your ass off.
I just paid $60 for gas. $60. I pay $60 for gas. And just for reference, generally, when I fill up my tank, like at the place that I was right there, it's around $48. I just gave up a whole American deli meal because folks want to play. I don't know what arrangement we got with old boy in office. It's time to get him up out of there.
Today, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution published 2 articles about Georgia Power, both of which were materially deficient. So I'm here to set the record straight. The first article talked about a pathetic $1.32 reduction in summer bills. And in that article, a journalist wrote that Georgia Power's average bills would reduce 1%, implying that the bill's $132 a month for the average customer. But that's not true. The average bill is $200.02. The gamesmanship that Georgia Power plays is that they claim that the average bill is 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, which is true nationally, but it's not true in Georgia. The average bill in Georgia is $10.80, and that makes the calculation they use artificially low. The reason Georgia Power is playing games with a $1.32 a month reduction in bills is because they're doing damage control. Georgia Power's profits in 2025 were an astonishing $2.85 billion, closing in on $3 billion. For a monopoly utility that does not compete to get customers and is delivering a commodity, electrons.
The bigger picture in Georgia is simple. People are tired of being told the economy is fine while their bills keep proving otherwise. Families are opening power bills and wondering how they used so little but owe so much. Renters are watching apartments and rooms become unaffordable. Parents are being crushed by childcare costs. Drivers are paying more at the pump. Seniors and disabled residents on fixed incomes are being pushed closer to the edge, and communities are watching corporations buy up homes, data centers demand more power, and utility companies collect profits while regular people are told to adjust. That is not a healthy economy. That is pressure building from the bottom up. And this is where MAGA politics deserves serious criticism. For years, Trump and MAGA Republicans sold voters a very simple story. They said they were fighting for working people. They said they would protect families. They said they would bring costs down, restore strength, and stand against the powerful. But when you look at what people in Georgia are actually living through, the question becomes impossible to avoid. Who is really being protected? Because it does not look like the family trying to keep the lights on is being protected. It does not look like the parent struggling with childcare is being protected. It does not look like the renter watching housing prices explode is being protected. It does not look like the senior counting every dollar is being protected. It does not look like the worker making low wages in a state where the cost of living keeps rising is being protected. It looks like the corporations are protected. The utility companies are protected. The developers are protected. The corporate landlords are protected. The big tech projects are protected. The people with lobbyists, lawyers, political access, and public relations teams are protected. Meanwhile, ordinary Georgians are told to sacrifice, budget harder, use less power, accept higher rent, and somehow be grateful for growth. But growth that makes life harder for the people who live there is not success. Growth that raises utility bills while monopoly companies profit is not success. Growth that lets corporations buy up neighborhoods is not success. Growth that creates headlines for politicians but anxiety for families is not success. That is extraction, and people are starting to notice. One of the strongest points in this transcript is the idea of legacy. These decisions do not disappear after one election cycle. Utility infrastructure, housing markets, data center development, corporate ownership, and public commission decisions can shape communities for decades. A bad decision today can become a burden that children and grandchildren are forced to carry tomorrow. That is why local accountability matters so much. It is not enough for politicians to say economic development and expect everyone to clap. Voters need to ask what kind of development it is. Who benefits? Who pays? How many jobs are actually created? How much water is used? How much power is required? Will bills rise? Will residents have a say? Will the community still be livable after the deal is done? Those are not anti-business questions. Those are pro-community questions. And if a politician cannot answer them clearly, that politician should not be trusted with the future of the community. The housing crisis is another place where accountability matters. When companies buy up thousands of homes, that changes the market for everyone. A starter home becomes a rental. A neighborhood becomes an investment portfolio. A family trying to build stability gets outbid by a company that does not live there, does not raise children there, and does not care about the community beyond how much rent it can extract. That is not the American dream. That is the American dream being bought in bulk and rented back to the people who were supposed to own it. And yet MAGA politicians keep talking like the only threats to families are cultural issues. They want people angry about books, schools, diversity, and whatever outrage is trending next. But the real threat many families are facing is much more direct. It is the bill in the mailbox. It is the rent renewal. It is the power shutoff notice. It is the grocery receipt. It is the child care invoice. It is the realization that working hard no longer guarantees stability. That is the part voters should not let anyone distract them from. Because politics becomes dangerous when people are trained to ignore their own suffering as long as their side keeps winning. If your bills are rising, that matters. If your rent is unaffordable, that matters. If your community is being reshaped without your consent, that matters. If your leaders are protecting corporations more than residents, that matters. You do not have to become less conservative, less religious, less Southern, or less proud of your state to demand better leadership. You simply have to stop accepting slogans as solutions. Trump and MAGA Republicans promised to fight for the people who felt forgotten. But in Georgia, a lot of people are still feeling forgotten. Only now, they are paying more for the privilege. They are watching the powerful get stronger while the average household gets squeezed. They are watching public systems bend toward corporate demand while residents are told to deal with the consequences. That is why this moment matters for unfiltered voters. Georgia is showing us that the cost of living crisis is not just about inflation. It is about power. Who has it, who uses it, and who pays when decisions are made behind closed doors. It is about whether government works for monopoly utilities or ratepayers. Whether housing policy works for corporate landlords or families. Whether energy policy works for data centers or communities, whether economic development works for politicians' headlines or people's lives. The answer should be obvious. Government should work for the people. And when it does not, voters have every right to demand change. So the question for Georgia voters is not just, why are bills so high? The deeper question is, who made the decisions that allowed this? Who approved the rate hikes? Who protected the monopoly? Who allowed corporations to buy up homes? who welcomed data centers without protecting residents first, who talked about affordability while supporting policies that made life more expensive.